Matt Walker, how are you? How's things?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Getting by. We're well, I suppose what are we? 2 months out of the downhill season starting, really.
Yeah.
4 months into the non-racing period.
Yeah.
It's been a while. How did you feel the last year's gone for you? Let's look back a little bit. I mean, what do you do? Do you do like a review or something, or do you take it more casually? Do you sit down? Do you have like some paper stuff that you fill in? How do you work it?
In terms of how I look back on the season?
Yeah.
Well, it's tough in the downhill game because I feel like the way everyone looks at it is you're only as good as your last result, and that's kind of the way you have to. You know, if you're riding well, and that's kind of how you have to see it as well. So, the back end of the year was really good. I was a lot more consistent towards the end, and I had a good feeling on the bike and stuff, and the team environment was good. So, I was happy, and I was just trying to stay a bit more consistent. Got injured at the start of the year, which kind of set me back. I had a good off-season training, and I knew I was fit and strong, and I won the first national, so I was really happy about that, and gave me a lot of confidence going into the kind of World Cup season. And yeah, just unlucky really, just to have a bit of a crash at the first one and got injured, and luckily it didn't take me too long to get back up to speed and get into the swing of things again. But yeah, I had a good few results kind of spattered around the season. I had a top 10 at Fort William, which was probably the highlight of the year for me, because Fort William, obviously being British, is our favourite World Cup and the biggest crowd that we get at a World Cup also. So it was nice to get a good result in front of the home crowd, and as my first year elite, it was a really big achievement. And then to finish the year off with a 10th at World Champs is mega. It's more than anything I could have hoped for. Going into the season, I kind of set goals to try and be inside the top 20 and inside the top 15 a couple of times towards the end of the year. So to have 2 top 10s and win the national title I exceeded my expectation of how fast and how strong I was. So it's just fueling the fire for the next year really. I feel like I've had a really good off season this time round, and I'm feeling really nice on the bike, and everything's going smoothly at the minute, so I'm really excited to get going.
So what's your process? So you kind of get to the end of the season, you do worlds and that. Do you look back like maybe with Phil or Will over what is it that like structured, or or is it kind of like as you go through the year you're kind of just mentally ticking things off as you go?
Definitely. I think as I go through the year, I just tick off goals that I've achieved, and then put that to one side and take each race as it comes. Really, I don't really sit down at the end of the year and kind of reflect on how it's gone. I just take the positives away from my results and keep moving forward. Really, so no, there's not as much structure as you'd think, I guess, at the end of the year.
Yeah. After Worlds, and I guess you had a bit of an off season, a bit of time to relax and that kind of thing. Like how long did you like taking off there?
So I think Worlds was the second week in September, and I had till the end of October off. So 5 or 6 weeks off, which is shorter than I've had in the past. The last couple of years I've started in November, but we're kind of midway through November, so I had a couple of weeks less, but I was ready to go. Like I felt like I'd had enough time relaxing and enjoying myself, and just riding my bike for fun, as it were, and with no pressure of races around the corner or trying to stay injury free. I just go and ride and have fun, and just hang out with people that I've not seen all year, friends from home and family and so on. So I didn't have that long, but as I say, I was ready to go and excited to get training for the next year, and trying to kind of starting early, you get ahead of the ball, so there's less pressure on your shoulders. You've got a lot of time and just bigger gains to be made throughout the winter for sure.
And you say that less pressure on you. This year you were going from juniors to seniors. I guess it was a double-edged sword for you, really. I mean, you can tell me, but because you were going up to seniors, so in theory, no expectation, because no one expects a junior to come straight in and start knocking out the wins or the podiums. But on the other hand, you had been one of the top performing juniors, so you were definitely going to be potentially looked at as, you know, the, you know, maybe one of the next big things in downhill, and you had that kind of spotlight on you.
It's a tough one, because there's not that many juniors that in their first year have gone from junior racing to senior racing, although it's very similar, and you know, you race on the same track on the same day. It's just the pressure is different, and not many juniors have have gone that well in their first year. Like, there's a few exceptions to the rule, but generally there was no pressure on me to go and be winning and podiuming at World Cups in my first year. I think it's quite unrealistic to expect that. So it was just, for me, I felt no pressure at all. You know, the team and Will and everyone made me feel confident that I just got to tick off the races and find my feet a little bit. And for me it was strange, because there's riders like G and Manar and Danny, for example, people that I've looked up to all the way through my career up to this point, and then you sat in the start gate behind them, setting off for a race run behind them, and it's strange to kind of you've had so much respect for these people and how fast they are, and then all of a sudden you've got to kind of see them in a different light and see them as your competition, and almost lose that respect that you have for them in that way. So it did take a couple of races to get used to it. I guess I was a bit starstruck, but no, it all kind of came together, and it was good. Yeah.
And was that, I mean, you say that there's been hardly any juniors who have made that first step up. Was that something, now that we've seen that happen, you know, year after year, probably for maybe as long as like 5-10 years, you know, starting with maybe like Rory Cunningham, Iceland and people like that. Was that something that going into last winter and into last season that you were like, that was a thing, like that's a thing now almost, that you know it's unlikely to be able to do it?
It is a strange one, because on paper, like, my times were comparing quite well to the, you know, I could get inside the top 20 a few times on the World Cup scene, and you expect to be there, but then often you can race in elite and it's different. You don't seem to have the same pace as you were, and it's just because, you know, the kind of dynamics of the racing changes a little bit, and it can be hard to get your head round as a junior, as a first year elite. I guess it was in the back of my mind. I never really set too many goals. I knew I was capable of riding inside the top 20, so I never tend to set goals too specific or too unrealistic, really. I think just the general things, like trying to stay injury free and ride all year, be consistent, and get inside that top 20 was a goal, really. So I achieved that, so I've taken that off and on to bigger and better things, hopefully.
That whole thing, that's an approach, isn't it? Because you get some people who take an approach of, well, I'm just going to, you know, smash down the track, and every weekend is like a new weekend, is like nothing happened, and I'm going to come to this track, I'm absolutely going to destroy it, versus I'm going to come in with no pressure, and I'm going to try and build up, and it's a real mix in downhill between being calculated but also being kind of without limits.
Reckless almost.
I
think it's really important, especially for the longevity of your career in terms of injury and just how consistent you are, to have a process and go through that process. So whether to start with you're not quite on the ball or not where you want to be, as long as you trust what you're doing and you support yourself with a good people around you, and you're on a good bike and you work hard to get the bike set up as best as you can, and you do all you can with your training, and you really trust that process that you're doing, it'll come for sure. And whether you need to tweak a few things here and there, and you know, when it's appropriate. I think what I always tried to do was almost like I say, make a process of what I was doing every weekend, and if one thing wasn't working for me, then I know which area to change then, and I always note it all down so I know where I stand coming into each weekend, and try and... You've got to see each weekend as a new weekend, new race, new opportunity, but I think if you stay to the same process, then your consistency's there for sure. So I think it's really important.
And you say like you're noting things down, so while you might not have this sort of rigid review structure at the end of the year, it's kind of, in some ways, it's ongoing, and you are you're not just going to the bike races racing your bike. You are like a bit of a student as well,
yeah,
whether that's of
sure.
whether that's of yourself or maybe like of the sport, and looking at times and where people are fast, and maybe even like clips on Instagram or whatever it might be. Is that something you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. It's really, really important these days because the racing's so close. You can't just be a good bike rider anymore. You have to be a good athlete, and that's not just being strong in the gym and riding your bike fast. You have to have the whole package now. You have to look after yourself right, and eat right, and travel correctly so you're not getting ill, and trying to prevent yourself from getting ill to start with, and how you structure your weekend so you can get the most out of it, and making sure your head's in the right place at the right time so you can perform the best of your ability, and being able to do that week in, week out for the whole season is really, really important. And I think if you don't have that written structure to, you don't have a plan, you just go there all willy-nilly and trying to ride flat out, the risk of injury is way, way more. And you see it in some riders, they're strong at the start of the year, but if the fitness and how they approach the racing isn't quite there, by the end of the year they go backwards, and I think it's really, really important to do that, especially to be consistent, not only week in, week out, but each year, and build each year until you get to the top.
And where is your assistance in that regard come from?
Well, it comes from a few different places, but I mean, in terms of looking out after myself and making sure I'm fit and strong enough for the year, is definitely the performance coach, Phil Dixon. I go up there and see him every week, and just to get some face-to-face time, I think it's really important. As we go through the winter, you can see me develop and get stronger as an athlete instead of just seeing writing on the paper. It's good to have that time, that bonding time together, because if you don't trust someone, if you don't know someone well enough to trust them with what you're trying to do, it makes it hard work, because he's going to support me when I'm winning the races and when I'm struggling as well. So I think it's really important to have that bond between people. And then my support team is quite small, really. I have Phil Dixon, the performance coach, and then Will Longdon, the team manager, and he's played a massive part in everything, really. I've been working with him for a long time now, since I was 14 or 15 years old, so he's kind of showed me the ropes in terms of how to set your bike up a bit and how to structure your weekend so you get the most out of it, and even little things about line choice and stuff. He still helps me. He's out on the hill at World Cups and stuff, helping me out in that regard, and it's easy to trust him because he's done it and he's been there before, where a lot of team managers, they haven't. So I think that's definitely a massive bonus for us, is that we have someone like Will who's been there and knows what it's like, and even when the times are hard, he's been there too, so he can kind of understand how we feel, which is great. And then obviously all the sponsors on the team, Fox Suspension, are there at the World Cups and stuff, so if you have any problems with the suspension that me, my mechanic, or Will can't really seem to find the best way around, then obviously Fox are there to go to and help you out with that as well.
So you mentioned like doing a lot with Phil over the winter. What kind of things are you doing there? I mean, what have you been doing this winter? Because I understand it's been a bit different than like last winter and maybe the one before. And
yeah, definitely. I think the most important thing from Phil's point of view is to not get me doing everything straight away, and for two reasons. Obviously, there's a lot of downhill riders that are in the gym, and in the gym from quite a young age as well. So obviously, he didn't put me in the gym until last winter. Actually, I was doing gym work, but no like heavy weightlifting or anything like that too much, because obviously it can damage you. Being young, I wasn't fully grown, so obviously it can be damaging. And he just tried to put me out on the road and get me fit to start with. And then each year we've added the weight training in a little bit more as I was getting stronger. And each year you naturally get bigger and stronger anyway with growing up. So now was the right time to add it all in, really. So this winter was, the first winter I've had really of doing the gym work, doing the heavy weightlifting and doing the road rides. And each year the workload throughout the week in the off season's gone up and up and up. And I'm pretty busy now, and I've got a full program going, and it's easy. It's much better on the mind as well, because if you were doing it all to start with, I'm 3 or 4 years down the line now, and I could potentially be getting bored of the same thing every winter. But with Phil, he keeps it fresh, and we do a few different things with cross training, and just try and mix it up every winter, keep it fresh, and keep me enjoying what I'm doing. Because I think when you're risking everything going as fast as you can down a hill, you want to be enjoying what you're doing, and you want to be in the best headspace as possible. So if you can enjoy your training and get the most out of it that way, then I think that's really, really important. So the training's been adding up over the last few years, and I feel like I'm in the best shape I've been in ever, really.
Yeah, and specifically you went, you did like a block of training, then you went away to South Africa with the Candell guys. How was that as an experience overall? Obviously, and even in the UK, like you're spending time doing training with like almost a training group of athletes from different places. So like, what influences has that had on your bike riding?
Massive. It's had an influence on my bike riding for sure. But I think the biggest thing is, as I was saying before about the whole athlete package, there's a lot of athletes all from all different sports that I can take a little bit from what they do that can really help me. So when I go to Sheffield, we train with rock climbers and cross-country mountain bikers and road cyclists and all different sports really, and you can take something from every sport that you for those athletes that you train with. And going out to South Africa was a big eye-opener for me in terms of that. I think the legacy effect after the camp really changed not only how I performed when I was training riding my bike, but just day-to-day living and how I was looking after myself really, to be a better athlete just day in, day out. And I think there's the little things that you can add in each day that, after a year or 2 years, 5 years, it makes a massive difference to you. So, all those Cannondale cross-country riders, they are full-time athletes, and they have been forever, really, for as long as they have really long careers. And it's good to just be around those guys and just see how they live day to day. And it's nice to take bits away from that I can put into my daily routine as well.
So what sort of things were you seeing then when you were spending time with them?
Little things like they'd come off a training ride and they'd have their recovery drink ready to go, and just little things like they'd be on the foam roller for a bit, and just little things that you'd add in like that. Before they go riding, they do a little activation session just to get their bodies warmed up properly before they go and ride, and just little things like that. And the biggest thing for me was I learned that when you ride hard and you train 100% and you give it everything you can, and the only way you're going to be able to do that each day for months is that you rest properly. And the quality of rest that you have, like when they train they go full gas, and then when they rest they do nothing. And that's really important, I think, because rest is probably more important than your training if you do it right.
You've just come back now from, on the opposite end of it, spending a bit of time on the downhill bike again. And how was that to get back doing the sport that you're actually to be doing? Yeah, no, it's really nice, and I always see it as almost doing a jigsaw puzzle. Each piece kind of comes together, but sometimes you get stuck, and you have to have time away from it. And then when you come back, it all just seems to make sense, and you can put it all together. And that's kind of how I saw this winter. Is
I was in the gym a lot, and obviously doing a few different things, going out to South Africa and with the cross country lot and stuff, and it's really helped me because I can have time away from the downhill bike. I just ride the downhill bike maybe once a week or a couple of times every other week, and it's really kept me fresh, and I can see it in a different light. And I think it's easy to ride too much and just not really get any faster. You just get complacent and you just ride the same tracks all the time. So for me, it's been really important to do a few different things and keep it fresh. And now I'm back on the downhill bike. I'm really, really enjoying it, and I'm going faster than I ever have. So it's all seeming at the minute like it's coming easy. I've put the hard work in, and I'm back on the downhill bike now and going fast and really enjoying it. So I'm really excited to get the season started. I feel like I'm ready to race. Sure, we've got a few gains to make now before the start of the year, and I'll be fighting fit and ready to go.
And when you say about gains to make and you feel like the fastest you've ever felt, I mean, is that feeling or is that measured? I mean, how are you going about that sort?
Yeah, generally generally it's a feeling, but we do a lot of suspension testing and time runs as well throughout the winter when we're on the downhill bike, and for sure, like matching times with other riders and times that I've done in previous years that I'm riding really well, and I can see that, and it's the clock doesn't lie kind of thing. So it's a massive confidence boost for me because I know I'm going well and I feel good too. So it's just good. Yeah.
And that's all like an important part of the process to have that element of
definite.
You can't, if it's the same track and roughly the same conditions and that kind of thing, and you're definitely faster, then...
Yeah, exactly. That's it. I mean, we do a lot of different things. I can go in time, and one thing I tried to do when I was in Portugal was I kind of had a rough bike setup of where I thought I liked it, and then I went away from that setup completely and then kind of came back in steps just to see if I'd missed anything really, because the bike generally is unchanged from the last year, so I already have a good feeling on the bike. So it's really good to have this time now where I'm not riding a new bike, I'm not trying anything drastically new, but it's a good opportunity to just try some random things that I never, in the middle of the season, you wouldn't think to try. So it's nice to have a bit of time to do that, and generally after a week's riding I was back where I started, so that gives me confidence that the bike's set up right, and I know what the bike should feel like when it feels good, and when it feels bad I know that it feels bad, and I can get back to it feeling good. However, I need to change the bike to do with the conditions or the style of track that I'm racing on. So it kind of gives me confidence that I can go anywhere in any condition on any track, and I can get the bike to feel the best it can, and as long as that, as well as me feeling the strongest and I'm going the fastest and riding the bike the best I ever have, I can optimise the bike's performance as well. So I'm in a really strong place, and I'm really excited to get going.
And that's hugely important, isn't it? Because you've got, you'll know about all of these, these videos about people puzzling and checking about bikes, and as funny as that sort of thing is, there is like the serious side to it. So is that another part of downhill strategy that's coming in, especially with young riders like you who see that of we're talking about some of the
top riders,
the people who you look up to and who have been at the top of the game for years and years, and they still can't, no disrespect to them, they still haven't been getting it right.
No, I agree, and it's a big thing for me. I spent a lot of time going through it, and I know everything down, so I know exactly where I stand, how everything feels, and I know a good process that works for me. And now I'm in a place where I feel like the bike's as good as it's ever been for me, really, and I'm really happy, and I know in what conditions I'll need what tyre, and just little things like that, where in a race situation where there's pressure and you have only a 2-hour window to practice, and little things like that, it just takes the pressure off completely, because I know in a split second which tyre I need, what kind of rough bike setup I need, and if the bike feels bad I know which direction to go in, and I'm confident that I'll be able to get it right nearly every time. So it's a really strong position to be in.
And it's to take that time to do that is, you know, I guess it's all part of the picture of what what you can take your time overdoing over winter.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the bike being the same.
You've got 6, 7, 8 months, so there's definitely the time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And without worrying about the bike being completely different or anything like that, you know where you stand to start with, and because the bike's the same and the kit's mostly the same, you can just try stuff that you've not tried before and
because
really get to understand how it all works.
Yeah, because potentially having so long of an off season with no plans, really, you know, races, you know, they fill up the calendar, they've got their time schedule. You're a racer, you know the process, you know do this at this time, do that at that time. Oh, I'm going to race my bike, I know what to do. You know, having such a long time of nothing potentially could be quite intimidating. Yeah, and you could end up wasting a lot of that time.
Yeah, for sure. I understand that, but I've got a really good support team, and they help me out with that as well, and kind of making sure that every time I ride my bike, I'm getting something out of it. And I generally don't really ride my downhill bike without learning something, or I try to go and to learn something, whether it's for worse or for better. I've learned something there, and I note it down, and you know, you can always learn from that. So as long as every time I ride the downhill bike, I'm trying something, or you know, I've got a purpose to riding it, then that'll make a massive difference. Yeah, because you're not wasting your time.
Yeah. So looking ahead to the season now, you're talking about looking forward to racing. I mean, obviously, World Cup races are going to take top billing, I guess. I guess for yourself, and that's what you're looking towards. So last year, you said you exceeded all your expectations. Yeah. What's on your plate for this year? Haven't exceeded all the expectations, and you know, the gap's getting narrower and narrower.
Yeah. I guess the World Cup series will be the main thing I'm focusing on, and World Champs at the end of the year. It's always hard to get on the British squad to even make it to World Champs, so just trying to get myself in a position that I can make it onto the squad again and represent myself and the country at World Championships in Montreal at the end of the year. That's a goal of mine, and I guess it will be, because you know, the competition's so tough in the UK, so it's hard to make it onto the team to start with. And yeah, just as I say, every year's the same in terms of trying not to get injured and try and get to every race and finish every race, and trying to limit the damage and keep myself fit and healthy and fighting all year. And in terms of results go, I'd like to pick up where I left off really, and make sure I get a few more top tens, and edging towards that podium maybe. That would be amazing if I could get towards that.
And that is kind of where the point of where we're at now. You know, second year of seniors, and you've kind of got everything except the podium, and I suppose beyond that, except a top three and except a win. Did you ever expect that, like a couple of years ago, to have that even on your mind as something that existed?
No, and I the whole way I looked at it is I'd expect a big change, and one day I'd be riding and I'd be able to go this fast, and then I would notice a big change and I'd feel like I'm going a lot faster, whereas in reality I don't feel like I'm going faster really when I'm on the bike. When I'm actually doing the time runs and I'm actually riding the bike without looking at the time, I wouldn't say I'm going any faster than I was 3, 4, 5 years ago, because I'm just trying as hard. But just the time seems to make sense, and I seem to be going faster, and it's because I guess I'm fitter and stronger now, so I'm not suffering as much on the 4-minute runs, and it's just one of them really.
Yeah. Before you've been around these riders you're looking up to and going behind them, and now potentially going ahead of them. What's the feeling there to maybe be one of these sorts of individuals?
Yeah, well, I'm really, really excited to be part of that. Even last year when I had a lot of kind of 11th, 12th places, and although they were really good results and consistent, I was just off the back of that top tier of riders like Loic Bruni and Troy Brosnan, Danny. I was just kind of Lucas Shaw, Loris. I was just kind of off the back of them. So this year, hopefully, if I can stick it to them a bit and get in the mix with them top boys, that'll be great. And I'm not, even if I do make it, I'm not really looking to have loads of attention to be at the, when you're at the top. I'm not really after the attention. I just, as long as I earn a bit of respect for being there, and then that's enough for me.
And we're talking now about, like mentioned before, very fine margins. Danny, for example, missed out on he had a very nice season, but had he have won the World Cup at a race that he was very close to winning and won the World Champs, it would have been it would have been entirely different. Both of those kind of time gaps like 0.3. So I mean, what's it like, chasing a 0.3, almost such an imaginary, a mythical
top amount
gap
of time
of nothing.
No, it's
but
tough.
It's everything.
It's one of them. I mean, everyone's working so hard now, and everyone's got themselves dialed in as much as they possibly can, and it's getting tougher and tougher every year, for sure. Like, people aren't winning races by 10, 14 seconds anymore. It's, if you win a race by a second, it's a big deal over a 4-minute track. So it's definitely getting tighter and tighter, but I aspire to be like them people that when I come across the line, people don't understand how you've gone that fast, and that's why I kind of aspire to be like. I'm always, as well as I'm chasing being the top, I want to raise the bar as well.
And you say things like that. I mean, has that been inspired by, things that you've seen, like, because people who have done things like that, Gwyn and
Sam Hill,
Minard and Sam Hill, and and Danny as well. Like, where were you when Danny won the world champs in Humphries? That's something you remember well, and
for sure. I mean, it's performances like that really stand out, and in a sport like that, they can really help your career and a lot of things. So that's kind of what I aspire to. It'd be nice to win some races and try and get my name up there a bit more. So.
And where were you for? Do you remember that that race?
Yeah, I remember it. I remember it vividly. I was at home watching on. I think it was Freecaster then. I don't think it was Red Bull TV. And I actually hadn't started riding downhill bikes then when I watched that. But incredible performance, and it's still one of the most viewed and most amazing downhill performances that we've ever seen. So. And I think it will probably stand for a long time. And as I was saying, it's getting harder and harder and harder to do that. And just, for at least the last few years, you've not seen anything really like that at all.
And so, what's it like to be on the team with that guy who's done that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the way that I see Danny now has changed completely. So when he was pulling out a performance like that, I mean, he was a complete idol to me.
I was going to say, I bet you never thought you'd even meet him.
No, well, that's it. And it's changed a lot, and now I see Danny as a friend and a great teammate, and we really help each other at the races and stuff. And as much as he's pushing me along to get to the top, I'd like to think I'm nipping at his heels and pushing him to be better as well. So it is surreal to think yourself as one of those guys at the top of the sport, but just take every day as it comes and don't really think about it too much, to be honest. Just get my head down and just keep riding my bike as best I can.
And what's it like with him? Because he is it's fair to say, I think he is a bit of an enigma. He is a bit of a, you've got some guys who are out there all the time, and you can, if you were to go through them, you'd say, well, this is this person's personality, this is this person's personality, this is what this person's like, and Danny's kind of remained almost a bit of a, like in a good way, like this bit of a mystery man, the guy who can turn it on, and you wonder how he does it, and he's still, and he's almost the wrong build for the sport. He's so small, what have you learned about him by being around him?
Yeah, well, the thing with Danny is, what I really admire and respect about him is the fact that he's not interested in all the hype. He's not interested about the media. He's not interested about what people think of him. All he wants to do is turn up at the races and win the races and go home. And I really respect that, because it's how I feel as well. I'm not really interested about being on the front of the magazines. I'm not interested about having thousands and thousands of followers on Instagram or whatever it may be. I just want to turn up and, you know, just be the best bike racer I can, really, and be polite and friendly to everyone, and, you know, just be seen as a genuinely nice bloke and just a bike racer. I just want to, you know, turn up at the races and do the best I can and leave. And I think me and Danny see the bike racing in a very similar way. We're just bike racers at the end of the day and nothing more.
And with that in mind, all the hype and that kind of thing, I mean, you know, the calendars come out now. You kind of look down that World Cup list. Obviously, there's a lot of debate always about the venues and where you're going, and a chat about the tracks and that kind of thing. What's your thought on the on the calendar list this season?
I'm really excited. I think it's important to keep changing the venues up. We had Croatia last year, which was a nice change, completely different and quite good for the sport, I think, in quite a remote location, but a beautiful one, and it kind of brought a lot of eyes on the sport that maybe wouldn't have watched it in previous times. And we've got Maribor back on the circuit this year that I've not been to, but as you know, has been raced in the past and always been a top track and one that people enjoy going to. And I'm really excited. I think people moan about Leogang being on the World Cup circuit each year, and I think it's quite important that we have something like that, because we have Montsinan, Val d'Isole, Andorra, which Joe Bloggs struggles to ride down, never mind race down at 30 mile an hour plus. And I think Leogang, it's a track that anyone can just go and ride, really. If you're into mountain bikes and you want to go down a work up downhill track, you know, that's definitely one that most people can ride, and because of that it's really relevant, and you see almost gain more respect for the riders watching how fast they can go down that trail, a trail that you can ride yourself. So it's more relevant, whereas you watch some people come down Val d'Isole, and although it's amazing, it's a spectacle, for most people it's just completely irrelevant, because they've not seen anything like that. They can't ride anything like that. They don't know how it feels, whereas places like Leogang, it's really relevant for a lot of people and the average mountain biker. So I think it's important to have a good variety of tracks like that, and it's a championship. We're supposed to be riding on different terrain, and it's the best rider will win the championship. Someone's got to win it, so the best rider will win it at the end of the day, and that's what it's all about. It's a world championship. I mean, you've got to have the variety.
And with the nostalgia, with the historic things that you've watched, I mean, do you kind of, in some ways, and I know this is out of your control to a large degree, but do you long for like a really muddy Schladming or a Humphries or, you know, something like that to happen?
Yeah.
To be like a once in a 5-year or once in a 10-year event, to just experience that as a myth? Or
yeah. Sometimes I do look at older racetracks and venues and think, I'd love to have raced that. Schladming is definitely one of them. I've been back to Schladming, and although it's an amazing place to ride and still up there and one of my favourite places that I've ridden ever, but I think back in the day when you were racing it with these massive, great big grass turns at the bottom and stuff, it's completely different racing the venue than it is just riding down the trail from years gone by, kind of thing. So I would have loved to have that back. And another place I'd love to race is Pila in the Aosta Valley in Italy. Amazing bike park, and they did run a World Cup there. I'd love to see one back there again, because the track is amazing. So I think it would be cool just to go back in time and have one of those crazy Humphries, Schladming type races, and just to experience it and just see, you know, everyone talks about it for years and years and years after, and I think it's a good opportunity to show what you're made of, really, when it's absolute washout.
Yeah, I think everyone's waiting for one.
Yeah.
especially with the like the improved TV and things not cutting out every 30 seconds. So I guess like finally a bit on the bike, I suppose. It's you're on, like you said, roughly the same bike as last year, and you were one of the very early adopters of the 29, and you got straight on it, and it was the bike for you. What kind of bike is it? What do you feel about it? What have you got to say about it?
Since the start of 2014, I've ridden a Saracen, and I think for me, not riding anything else, it's been a really positive thing, because I know how it feels. I've ridden it for so long now, and each refinement they make, I can see it, and because I've had that time on the bike, and now they all work similarly. But then each year they've got better and better, and now they've gone to carbon, now 29-inch wheels, and the bike's getting better and better every evolution of it. And but this one I'm on at the moment, I've had no faults with it. I mean, as the World Cup tracks have evolved, the bike's evolved with it, and I feel confident that I'm on a bike I can win on. And I think it's really important to have, people behind me that support me and give me a bike that's worthy of winning World Cups, because that's what I'm working so hard towards. And I know everyone at Saracen they're all chasing the same thing. And if there was ever a point where I felt like I needed more out of the bike, and it would be changed, and it would be adapted and changed, so I was able to win on it. And it's definitely a World Cup winning machine. We've seen Danny being so close on a couple of occasions this year, and hopefully we can one of us can tick it off and get a World Cup win in the next couple of years, and I'd be over the moon with that. And I'm sure, as I say, everyone at Saracen Bikes is chasing the same goal. So
that's it. I think
that's about it.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything, I reckon. I don't know. Anything I'm missing, or anything you'd stick on the agenda?
No, I think we've covered everything, haven't we?